Hey, spooky friends, and welcome to The Twisted Twins, hosted by Britt
and Kay. And tonight's episode is all about astral projecting and lucid dreaming. And if you're over on our YouTube, then you can see that we have a couple of guests with us tonight.
Yes, we have returning guest Josh, my husband, and welcoming Alex, and he is like our brother from another mother. We are keeping our guests in the fam.
Yes, we are. And it's super exciting. We love guest episodes. So what we're going to start with is some rapid fire questions to get to know you a little better, to understand you a little deeper for us and for the listeners. Brittany, do you want to start with a couple of questions?
A couple of questions. First and foremost, do you guys believe in the paranormal?
Yes.
Oh, a little hesitant. Yes.
I was like, do we?
Yes, we're going to answer together. Okay, let's start with ghosts. Okay, obviously. Do you believe in ghosts and aliens? And how about multiple dimensions?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. All three.
Alternate realities.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Did you guys hear about the 6 new galaxies that they found?
No. Where?
In space.
In my asshole.
I was like, is it off the 405? You hit a left.
No, they found 6 new galaxies on the James Webb.
I mean, like, how far are they? What do they have in them? What's going on? Give me the deets.
So I didn't know this, but the James Webb is so powerful that it can see back in time.
Yeah.
Which fucking hurts my head.
Yeah, it can see the Big Bang. Or that's what their whole idea was to look for it.
So
that was amazing. They're
talking about now that they're going to have to rewrite like textbooks because of these new galaxies, because they were saying that the Milky Way is like 13 billion years old, and it's always like expanding, right? So I have fucking
That's a hair clip.
It's always expanding over time, so they're like measuring the rate of like how fast it grows over like 13 billion years. But these 6 new things they found are like half as old, so they're like 6 billion years old, but they're like 10 times bigger than our galaxy. So
okay, first of all, rude. I feel like we all have to start compensating now.
I know.
Right. So they're like, how are these so much bigger than ours when ours is supposedly older? Right.
Mm-hmm. So then that I would, in my head, I'm like, so that means that we're younger than them?
Not necessarily, because that's how far we could see out. So like when we look into the galaxy with those, they're using what is it called? A specific type of wavelength to measure, like not ultraviolet, but it's a type of wavelength that they're using to measure. They're not actually taking pictures like they used to with Hubble and stuff like that.
Okay.
So as the universe expands, things that move towards you have a red wavelength. That's why things look red in those images that they do get from like Hubble. The things that are red are moving towards us, and the things that are blue are moving away from us. So that's how they're measuring. But yeah, we're looking so far out into the galaxy now that we're actually seeing back in time, because light takes a certain amount of time to travel through space in a vacuum, which they don't actually know the actual time, because we've always only measured the two-way speed of light. And there's some theories out there that says the one-way speed of light could be totally different. That's a whole nother thing.
That's freaking crazy. Oh, it really messes with me, because It's overwhelming. And then I saw that, I think I've put it in some of our episodes before, like some of our alien episodes and stuff, where the universe is like moving, right? And then like our solar system, and our solar system is like spinning constantly. But we, as at least I did, I'm not going to speak for you guys, but in like grade school, you're taught like you make your solar system, out of your little styrofoam stuff, and it's like, oh, you learn about it. And for some reason, I just assumed we were in a fixed position,
Right.
that we were not moving through space. And something about that just fucks with me. I'm just not okay.
Yeah,
Ever
so
since I
like
saw that.
our solar system moves in and out of a clustered center of the Milky Way galaxy too. So everything orbits around the sun, but our sun actually orbits the Milky Way and one of the arms. So it's always moving in and out of a really clustered area, and we're moving back into that clustered area, the same clustered area that has caused like the moon to form when we were hit by
Right.
comets and asteroids and stuff like that. So that's pretty scary too.
And like, how far out can we even tell if something that massive was going to collide with us?
I mean, like they can try to be accurate, but it's all math. I mean, it's all shit. It past me, but they use calculus and stuff to try to estimate if we'll come into close contact, and they get pretty good at it. Like, but there's always the smaller things get, the harder it is, and the more clustered we move into that area of the Milky Way, the more unpredictable it's going to become. And eventually, like, I mean, I think it's still going to be like another 10,000 years before we're in the thick of it again. But
dang,
yeah,
we'll be around for that.
Yeah.
In our like 100th life.
Yeah, it's like whenever there's like a meme or like a TikTok or something of when your teacher told you that the sun is going to explode in 40 million years, and the kid's like, like, no, like having a whole existential crisis.
Yes.
Yeah. I felt that way about the dinosaurs and the meteor. That one hit me hard. Whew.
I know.
Yeah.
Okay, so after that big tangent, back to our rapid fire questions. So do you guys believe in aliens? Do you believe we believe in alternate realities?
Mm-hmm.
And life on other planets? Do you believe the weather balloons were from outer space?
Whoa.
No. No, not even a little bit.
I know, because they're like UFO, and everybody.
Well, and then it was like an alien sighting in Southern California, which is constant. Okay.
Right.
But then it's like, oh, Australia, this guy captures a video of an alien walking, like hitchhiking on the street. And then people were like, it's like a mentally ill woman. And I was like, I couldn't really tell. But I mean, that's like a whole freaky subject of, are we being visited by aliens as well as?
I think we've been visited,
Yeah.
And what are the odds that they always land in America, no matter what?
Fuck yeah.
America, the narcissist.
Yeah.
But that's the same thing as like the Bermuda Triangle thing. It's like did you guys do an episode about the Bermuda Triangle?
No, but I want to. Do you believe in the Bermuda Triangle?
No.
What
if you look at like actual data about where like planes and ships have crashed, there's no correlation. Like they're everywhere, for some reason, people have just really focused on that area. And I mean, there might be like a higher volume, but not by enough to say like that there's like some kind of magnetic field that disrupts. Yeah, it's not enough to really. It just got famous because of all the oldest writings, like all the oldest accounts and stuff of that. So.
Mm-hmm.
We're
gonna look into that.
You know what? Do you think that the Titanic was really the Titanic? Are you guys on that side of TikTok?
I don't have TikTok, but I've heard that.
Oh, okay.
Because the book that was written before, right?
Yes.
About
that it could be like, I don't know. Anyways, more rapid fire questions. Okay. So, what is a favorite conspiracy theory?
JFK one for sure.
Well, which one? We have done 2. Did we do 2 conspiracy episodes? We've at least done the one conspiracy theory episode, and we talked a little bit about JFK. But he's got a lot of different conspiracy theories.
I don't believe there was a lone gunman. That's just ridiculous. Lee Harvey Oswald was a horrible marksman in the Marines, and for him to make that shot is just like some pros back in that time using that gun that he had, the rifle that he had, couldn't make that shot.
Well, have you guys seen where they say that it was the driver of JFK's car?
Yeah, so
I've tried to zoom in on that. I don't see the gun.
The Zumbruder film, they said that there was a glint in the guy's hand. It was his wristwatch, because they interviewed that guy a lot of years later, and they asked him like what, and he was like, well, I fucking, there's a commotion behind me, of course I'm gonna look back, and he reached back as the second bullet hit, but it was his wristwatch that gave that glint that everybody said was a gun.
I'm glad Alex knows everything.
Yeah.
Alex
or like the Secret Service guy who like tripped and accidentally shot his gun, and his gun bullet just happened to hit JFK.
I haven't heard that one, but that sounds a little far-fetched too. I mean, bullets do crazy things. Like when you look at ballistics, you know, so like the gun that he used was a hypersonic round. Hypersonic meaning that it travels faster than the speed of sound. And so when it hits the body, it does all kinds of weird things, and it does curve, and like it is possible that it entered in the back of his chest, out his chest, into his arm, into his thigh, into the next guy's fucking thigh, out his ankle. Like bullets do crazy things, but it's all about the amount of shots that were fired at JFK and hit. It's like unbelievable.
Sorry, Roxy's right here. That is crazy.
The cool thing is there was this guy. Have you guys ever heard of Nostradamus?
I feel like that sounds familiar.
That
Maybe
sounds like
that's something that you've talked to us about.
Probably. He was I don't even want to say what year he was around, but a long time ago, like 1,000 years ago, you know. And he was a writer, and he wrote down over 2,000 predictions. And they think that he predicted Hitler. He misspelled his name by like one letter, like Hisler or something like that. He predicted the World Towers and JFK. And his predictions, like if you read into it, it lean more on the side of a second gunman in the grassy knoll.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
But have they, like, do we have access to all of his predictions?
Yeah.
How far up do they go?
I'm not sure. I haven't looked at that in a while, but he had like over 2,000, and a bunch of them have supposedly came true. Famines all over the world and stuff like that.
I feel like I have heard about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That rang a bell.
Freaky stuff.
Yep.
That's conspiracies.
Yeah. What's one of your favorite conspiracy theories?
The Loch Ness Monster.
Ooh.
Whoa, not even a conspiracy. Nessie
is real.
You know what pisses me off is the amount of people that are saying Nessie is a whale penis. You guys seen that?
Yeah.
That'd be impressive. That would be the mammal with the second largest penis. Me being the first.
You're so stupid. Yeah, but it like comes out of the water and it's all weird looking. But it's like that.
What's the whale doing?
But yeah. Okay, so Loch Ness Monster. That's a good one. Let's get into the topic. Astral projecting. Do you guys know what it is?
Yeah.
Have you done it?
Yes.
Have I done it?
Have you done it? Do you know the definition, my love?
Okay, how about lucid dreaming?
Yeah.
Have you done it?
I've done that.
I've tried. I'm terrible at it.
Me too. Thank you.
You purposely try to lucid dream?
Absolutely, yeah. If
Oh my
lucid
God.
dream, you know.
No, I've only done it a few times, and we'll get into it, but it freaks me out when I realize, and I tried so hard to wake myself up out of it. It freaks me out, especially if I can't fully change the dream.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I'll explain a little deeper, but I don't like lucid dreaming. Brittany, have you astral projected or lucid dreamt?
I have astral
Dreamed?
projected, and I'll kind of explain like once we get into it a little bit more, like, and I'll bounce this idea off you guys on whether or not it's astral projection or if it's something other, like psychically or something. It's definitely like a different level of consciousness, but and then lucid dreaming, I honestly, like, I always, like, if I'm dreaming, I'll wake myself up and then I'll fall back asleep and fall back into the dream, and I can potentially be like, okay, actually this person didn't kill me, or actually this person, and kind of change it that way. But I'm never like in the dream manipulating it like that. I never been able to do that.
Have you guys ever had a dream where you are having a dream, like almost like Inception, but it's like literally a dream inside of a dream, and then you have another dream of that like a few days later of the same dream inside of a dream, and you know that it was a dream inside of a dream in your current dream?
I've gone to like places where I'm like, I've definitely like I
where you tell yourself in your dream like, oh,
I've
this
been
is
here
from my
before.
dream.
It's
Yeah.
kind of like a dream deja vu.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
had that
Yeah.
too. I had that
Yeah.
a couple weeks ago.
Me
a month
Me
ago.
too.
Me too.
I don't dream like that. Like when I have dreams, I'm in no way control of them, and they're very infrequently. Like I don't dream often at all. And if, I mean, people say that you dream every night, you just don't remember them. I think that's bullshit, because I just sleep through a fucking plane crash, and I think that's part of it. You know, is that like
That's a problem.
I'm in such a deep like REM sleep, I just don't dream.
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, someone who definitely doesn't have kids, I am in such a deep REM sleep. I'm salivating at the mouth, wishing I could fall into a deep REM sleep.
I know.
I don't know if anyone else feels like that out there, but damn, that sounds
Mhm.
really nice right now.
I'll have like the location or like a building, or it's mainly places, or I'll dream of the same place, or
like to me, it's different than a reoccurring dream, because I've also
Right.
had reoccurring dreams or reoccurring nightmares is more what I've had. But yeah, those dream deja vus they freak me out.
Yeah, where I'm like, hey, I've been at this place before. Oh, but now we're doing a family reunion, or now we're doing, you know, like it's like different.
Yeah, mine
things,
sometimes
but
they get more
recurring.
specific than that too. I think that's
Yeah.
what freaks me out the most. What were you gonna say, Alex?
Well, and when I was young, like really, really little, probably the same age as your guys' young ones, I used to have really bad night terrors, like super, super bad night terrors. And I had them up until maybe I was about 10. And then, I don't know, anytime I have dreams, they're never good. You know, I never have like really good dreams. So, I mean, we'll get into it more later, but that was actually a reason to get into astral projection for me was, and I kind of closed that door, and I think that might still be why I don't dream.
Yeah. Okay.
So it was like some kind of a control over your subconscious, I guess it would be. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't think I actually knew exactly what I was doing, but it's definitely done something to my subconscious that has like blocked me from really being able to dream a lot, as much as an average person, I guess.
Yes. Okay, that's so crazy that you say that. I've only recently been able to, where I'm like recounting my dreams and like remembering them and realizing like, okay, I am dreaming, because I want to say it was the Astoria house. I completely closed myself off, and I like barely dreamed or like recalled my dreams, I guess. And I kind of, that's interesting.
So that was an interesting, not so rapid fire questions, but we learned a lot and we had fun along the way. But let's get into why we forced at, threat of death, Alex to come and talk tonight about what you came to talk about.
So yeah, I have, I guess, a little bit of an interesting background, not professionally, but more just personally in my life with Satanism when I was young. I had an incident happen in my life, not necessarily a near-death experience, but something that um, prompts me into looking for, as my mom always puts it, as power. I had like a run-in with a robbery when I was really young. So she said after that, it was like I was on a quest for power, and also just like kind of an identity crisis, really. But when I was in middle school, I started getting really interested in different theological, points of view, and I started with Satanism, but I've read a lot of different things, a lot of different
Beautiful.
books. Yeah, a lot of
Everybody's
different.
dream.
Yeah, exactly. I would buy the book at Barnes and Noble, and she would throw it away every time she found it. But I would just keep going back. I probably got this guy like like they get a list of like royalties and stuff. They're like, wow, it's really spiking out of nowhere because it was all me. But yeah, so that was when I was seventh, eighth grade, and from there I kind of moved on to different theologies, Judaism, Islam. Obviously, I'm a Catholic now, so that's kind of where I stand spiritually. But I'm interested in all kinds of different things, and I think it's interesting on the astral projection topic is that there's a level of that kind of on every belief or theology, or so it's something, because all these different societies and religions and cultures and thousands of miles apart, they all kind of tap into that in different ways. And
Mhm.
it doesn't seem like it on the surface level, but when you read into more stuff, I mean, like it astral projecting, I think, is like the more common term for it and very defined. But even prayers and meditation for the East is like, well, you're tapping into something that is on a different plane of this existence that we all inhabit, right? So on the
Yeah.
scientific level, I like to think about it as like an alternate dimension, that these different religions and societies have figured out, but not had the word capacity or the science to really explain it. So that's where I'm at with it. I think it's all encompassing. It's all two sides of the same coin, and
Yeah.
I just kind of take a piece of every little bit that I've read and form my own opinion about it.
Yeah.
Right.
I feel the same way, and it's gotten a lot of backlash from people that are so strong in their own
Rigid.
own
Hmm.
theology. And I totally understand why they're like, excuse me, because that kind of contradicts everything that like monotheism with, it's just there's one God. And when you start saying, well, I think that it's every religion, it's all the same thing. It's all
Right.
the same higher power, even back to like paganism or Greek mythology or Egyptian gods. They're all the same thing. And like our
Yeah.
prayer, although we pray different and for different lengths of time, um, it's all reaching you to that same spot. That's
Yeah.
how
And
I
that's it.
feel.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about that is like with polytheistic religions like paganism, there are deities in their belief system that encompass a lot of the same attributes as. I'll give you an example. Okay, so well, the three stars in Orion's belt, right? They always point to a star. Sirius is the name of the star, right? And Sirius on December 25th points to the sunrise. And back in the old day, those stars were called the Three Kings, and Sirius
Mhm.
was known as the North Star. And on December 25th, it points to the birth of the sun. So the Three Kings followed the North Star to the sunrise on that day. And the 12 disciples is another, you know, basis for the 12 constellations that this
It
follows the sun around. And it's all astrological, but it's something, it's like these
Well, it's
Yes.
stories
crazy
pre.
how you see how much modern day Christianity just, and I don't want to say this in like a controversial way, but it's just factual. They took so much from paganism.
That,
100.
yeah.
Everything. Easter, Christmas, Halloween, although I know a lot of Christians don't celebrate Halloween, but even to Jesus Christ's birthday, I mean, there's records that saying he wasn't even born on December 25th, and it is all derived from the pagan solstice, the darkest day of the year, and then seeing the sunrise.
Well,
it's like
even ancient Egyptians, like their main god that they worship is the sun god.
yeah.
So it's, and even back to like oh gosh, like I almost just said something not right. Back in, you know, like 3,000 years ago, civilization, same kind of thing. They worshipped the sun, the moon, and the stars.
The stars. Yeah. And like Mother Earth. And it's all yeah. And but I was also like, I don't know if you guys were this kind of way, but I was a very like imaginative child too. Like I believed in everything. Like even now with kids, and they, you know, they're like, they come home from school and they're like, oh, you know, Johnny Boy said Santa's not real. And I'm like, where do you think Christmas spirit comes from, my dude? Like old Saint Nick, holla.
And they're all allegories for something. I mean, even the Saint Nick thing, I don't have this story completely right, but that derives from like Nordic beliefs, and the whole red and white thing, Christmas presents under the tree. It's all kind of sounds like mushrooms, you know. That's
the
Christmas
tree brought in your house. That's what paganisms do. You know, the Yule tide log. It's just like it's crazy.
The Yule season for pagans.
Yeah.
And all of them have something to do, and this is a good an interesting point back into like the higher dimensions, is like all of these religions have some kind of psychedelic ritual that they practiced to get to that plane, you know. So like with Christmas, I mean, there's like this there's this guy, he wrote this book called The Sacred Mushroom, I want to say, and it is all about connecting the parallels between Christianity and paganism and psychedelics, honestly. Actually, it's interesting because it's a good parallel to look at when you think about like I don't know, have you guys ever been to Catholic Mass?
No.
Yes.
So you know when they come down the altar with the frankincense and it's smoky and stuff like that. I think it's frankincense. I'm a bad Catholic, but the frankincense is
you were a Satanist, so
isn't Christianity all about forgiveness? But the frankincense is a cousin to salviadorum, which is a really, really like powerful psychedelic. You know, I don't know if it's psilocybin or what the active chemical compound is in it, but I mean, like if that's the case, you could draw parallels to Moses and the burning bush. And it being a form of a psychedelic that he was inhaling the fumes from and heard the voice of God on that another plane when he, you know, became high and
level.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And we don't mean to offend any Christian, any religion at all. This is just a blanket discussion. And it's just interesting and it makes you think. Even like we were talking earlier with the universe itself and the galaxies and how we're rewriting English, we're rewriting history. And
America.
We're rewriting history. That I wonder when that turn is going to come back around too. And then what really drives me crazy is when you think about every single war that has happened. And I know you both are vets, so it's like every war that's happened about religion, like it's the same fucking thing. And can you imagine like the gods or God or source or whatever you want to call it up there just looking down like just killing each other over me? Talk about a narcissist.
Or how many genocides.
Flattered, but
right. And I almost feel like that the universe or whatever kind of is like sitting back and just like letting us, because I feel like this, like where we are on Earth right now in this moment is just like almost like the place where we figure shit out, you know? We like
and that's why we have stories of the divine even having wars up there. Is like the this has always been my belief, is like that we're not above war, and I don't think God is either. It's
Yeah.
like there is a whole in Catholicism. There's a whole part of the Bible where the Lucifer fell from and took a third of the hose. That's a war in itself. So it's
Yeah.
like wars in as far as it comes to religion, it's like the religion is a byproduct of the ideology used to fuel the war, but it's also, I think, a cycle. Like I'm not one that believes in what's the word for it, like utopian societies and stuff like that. I think there's this good quote, I think it's Carl Jung says, if humankind ever were to find themselves in a utopian society, the first thing we do is find a way to jack it up. And it's so
Oh yeah.
true.
Mhm.
So I
Yep.
mean, that's part of that cycle that I think, and the translations of these different religions, even the Bible, they talk about Jesus saying, "I'll be with you to the end of the world," or whatever. But that's a mistranslation for eon, and eon is 10,000 years or something like that. And he's always associated with the fish. That's a pagan
Mhm.
symbol, because
Yeah.
and before him it was Moses. And what did he do when he came down from the hill and saw his people worshiping the golden calf? He smashed it. Well, Moses was a Jew, and one of the more famous things the Jews do is blow out of a ram's horn. So it could be saw as the end of one eon and the ushering in of a new eon, the end of what's Aries and the beginning of
Mhm.
Taurus, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And then the end of Taurus and the beginning of Pisces. The next
Yeah.
eon would be Aquarius. So I don't know if I have all those right. Somebody's
No,
gonna have to
you're
fact check me, but
you're not. Yeah, you're in the right. Currently, we are in the Pisces, which is what makes it so interesting. Because when you do go back further and you're looking at astrology and different depictions over thousands of years from humans, and you do start picking up on that too, and it gets pretty crazy, and it kind of makes you want to step back and go, you know what, everyone that's made fun of me for liking astrology and believing in it, fuck
there's
off.
something there. There's
Yeah.
something there.
I know.
It just, what I always say is, why would humans have believed and worshipped and lived their life, chose their mates, like picked different, not like jobs, but did different things due to what fell into their star signs and different things like that for all of these thousands of years. And now all of a sudden we're like, oh, no.
I know.
You're crazy. You're just
Well,
a crazy chick.
but I mean, even the main religions, they all observe some kind of um, ideology with the sky, right? Because if you look at most religions, they all have something to do with a funny hat. Like Christian women, Jewish men, hat. Christian women and or Christian men and Jewish women, no hat. So it's like, what the fuck's this obsession with the hat, right?
Well,
But
when
it's
you go
all has to do
into,
with the sky and the observance of the sky, and like when you're praying to God, you look up. It's all there. It's just it's been polluted with ideologies and all these different
oh yeah,
things. So
and it's about like shielding too. That's also in certain witch covens, I want to say, they talk about wearing that hat as a shield too. So I think that that's interesting, is that so many different
Yeah, you put your
religions all over the
your
place.
hood on, you put your hat on, and it protects your like your,
Which, you know, is funny that when we joke about aliens coming and like signs
The
with
tinfoil
the, oh
hat.
yeah,
the
the
tinfoil
tinfoil
hat,
hat, yeah.
yeah.
That is
it's
pretty
all
interesting.
connected in some way.
Yeah.
We do say this a lot on our podcast, is how wild it is that over, thousands of years that humans have been here across the globe, that we all kind of had like the basics down for belief. Even though they are unique and different in their own way, we still have like the same core variables. And especially places like I say this a lot, like ancient Egypt and like the Aztecs, for instance. How did they know to build their pyramids in such a way? How did they know, even before them, where to build their sacred sites like as far as like a ley line or
Mm-hmm.
a vortex? How do they know that stuff? I think that is just so incredibly interesting, and how like across the entire globe, people who could not like say pick up their phone and say, hey, we're practicing this religion and we're worshiping this person and we're doing it in this way, and then these people are like, oh yeah, us too. They were not, you know.
Yeah, they had
obviously.
no
Right,
means of
yeah.
communicating. They never
Yeah.
met each other. They never traveled those distances, yet they still practiced very, very similar things. They built their structures in similar ways and in similar positions,
Yeah.
pointing in similar directions,
Yeah.
all calculating out similar things. And I know we've talked about the freaking pyramids, and like, okay, if by some crazy miracle they were, you know, created by the slaves and the workers in Egypt. Okay, I'm so sorry, but I just don't buy it.
I know. That's what I was gonna say. My conspiracy theory is that like a time traveler, an alien, a higher power, something explained to these ancient civilizations.
Not only explained, but helped. Because
Yeah.
those, like when we had our conspiracy or our alien episode, and we talked about how heavy one of those stones is. And we have all of these different structures that from their time when they were building certain things, where we're able to find the types of tools and equipment that they used, but we don't have that ramp. It would have to have been a 10-degree ramp that slowly increases every, you know, and it would have to have been so long for them to be able, for a human to be able to have dragged that up there.
The ramp would have been bigger than the pyramids.
Yeah, not only that, but like,
impressive.
But not, yeah, like where is it?
Yeah.
Like that's where it's like this doesn't. It's just crazy.
And then the reasoning
Yeah.
too. I think the common belief now with anthropologists is that the reason for the pyramids was commerce and to be the epicenter and like a big show of wealth, you know, in those times. But it's like, really, we were kind of practicing capitalism back then. Like,
Yeah,
I
it's just like
know.
Y'all don't think that like every group just had one guy that was a lot smarter than everybody else?
yeah.
Are you thinking that you're that one in this group of 4 people?
Yeah, wait, what?
No, just like Aztecs and the every other group back
And that
then,
would
like
be saying, like,
someone was like really smart for their time and saying like, oh, if we want to climb up this building, it'll have to be at an angle and
and we're
No,
gonna
for
follow all
sure.
of these
I
same
think it's
practices and same
possible.
worships
Yeah,
and rituals
that's
It's like
as
math.
everybody else.
Once you figure out math, it's the same no matter what.
Yeah,
So
and that was going to be my point, is that like, well, you know, 1 + 1 = 2, and that's an undeniable fact. So those facts are universal in the sense that, like, well, once you discover them, they just become true. You know, like units of measurement change throughout geographically. You know, like no matter how far apart you are, but the foundation of the truth stays the same. So there is that, but on that note of a lot of those societies did appoint somebody to be, you know, the smartest guy in the village or the elder or stuff like that. And
Right.
the interesting thing is they all had shamans too, you know,
Yeah.
and those practices are passed on through oral tradition or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, is a lot of it was oral tradition, and that's why we don't know how the pyramids were built, because there was no written record of it that we have found or been able to interpret correctly.
I'm
But
hoping that the tombs that they just unlocked and all of the ancient scrolls that they have found in there, that there's going to be some sort of answers. That's kind of like been the archaeological rumor this last year, is
that it's going to change everything about not only the timeline of ancient Egypt, but also who was in charge, what was going on. And I think they also found scrolls in one of the sarcophagi. Didn't they?
They have all sorts of things that they're going to be like
yeah, Alex, you look like you're about to jump out of your skin. What do you want to fucking talk about with this?
I'm gonna be the naysayer on this one. Don't because that happens all the fucking. You know how many thousands of tombs they find like every.
No, but this
year?
one is crazy. This one is crazy. How below the surface is this one, that they had no idea was there for like the last 150 years that they've been excavating?
It's pretty freaking amazing. Like the fact that they even found them, it is. I always talk about how I would love to time travel, but I really would love to time travel in such a way that I was like, like in Wonder Woman's jet or something, where I don't have to go down there and like deal with no toilet and like no like showers and plumbing and like bottled water.
Diva
traveling.
time traveling.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like I want to go glamping, but like time traveling. But I want to see. It just drives me crazy. And I know that like historians and like mathematicians and scientists, they all obviously feel the same way, which is why they're so passionate about it. But it's like, it's crazy how the smallest thing can interpret and change what we've been learning as history. It's
well, think about this. Okay, they just realized that the Milky Way is not 13 billion years old.
Yeah.
It could be a lot younger. So for all we know,
he's stuck on this.
Yeah, he really is.
Fixating.
He's like, I read this article, I can't get it out.
I cannot stop.
But I just realized this when y'all were talking about Egypt. Like, what if they like marked that wrong as far as like how long ago it was?
They confirmed that already.
Well,
they can't. That's an interesting thing because the only way they confirm that is through finding materials that you can carbon date, because you can't carbon date rock. It's going to come out millions of years old, right? So every time they carbon date something, it's been like a piece of wood that they found inside the tomb. But I mean, that doesn't really necessarily give them an actual, like it. And there's really no way. I mean, I think that's going to be one of the. That's why it's one of the seven wonders of the world, is because they'll never know how old exactly. They theorize that, like, what's that interesting time fact where they're like Cleopatra is closer in time to the creation of the iPhone than she was to the building of the pyramids. It's like,
well,
or like the freaking. But what's crazy, because I'm gonna get you right back, Alex, is that our mother effing founding fathers didn't even know that dinosaurs existed. They knew nothing about. They didn't even know what a dinosaur was.
Isn't that trippy?
So when you do start digging, you do start finding stuff. Okay. You do, like, literally, they're going to open up a tomb that's another 150 feet down below these ones, and it's going to be like a different universe. And you're going to, an alien's going to be like, hey, I built these.
We literally just discovered Pompeii. Not even, when was it? Like in the early 1900s, discovered Pompeii, and how everything was literally preserved under volcanic ash, and like the way that they ran their city, everything changed. So just to piggyback off of Kayla's point.
Yeah, it's true. And I hope they find something. And I think this is me. I really hope we find more about like their belief systems, not so much their deities, but like, and that's the same thing that like we're talking about, right? Is like their shamans. Like, I think that is way more interesting than pyramids, because like, what are we going to do with the knowledge that we know about the pyramid? Like, we can build skyscrapers now. Like, who gives a fuck? I want to know about. I want to know about like their
like day-to-day lives, like what the heck was going on.
Imagine that point in time wasn't like thousands of years ago. It was actually only 500 years ago, but it was a different plane that eventually synced up into ours.
Oh, like the Mandela effect.
Oh, don't get started on the Mandela effect.
All the shamans all went into this higher level consciousness state, going back to the astral projection, and connected with some sort of higher being or higher power, or something that was alien, because I know Aleister Crowley did astral projection and spoke with aliens. Maybe they connected with someone and they were like, do these, build lists, this exact location, these, because there's the thing that like blows my mind is looking at the Aztecs and the ancient Egyptians, and how they're literally on the same like.
But the Egyptians being way older.
Yeah, right. Which is what's crazy is how were they not only so far in distance apart, but far in time apart too. It's freaking wild.
Yeah.
But the Astral,
Industrial
that's a good.
Revolution. The Industrial Revolution, like for thousands and thousands of years, like there was really no growth in like knowledge and technology. And then the last like 150 years, everything is just like
Bam,
boom,
bam,
boom,
bam.
boom, 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 boom.
Yeah,
Even
which
like
is
look at like the
crazy.
last 20 years.
Yeah.
It's crazy to see where we are 20 years
Which is
later.
also, it makes me kind of worried because I don't exactly love the technology boom that we're in. I would rather go back to a more simplistic time, but that's an unpopular opinion, I'm sure.
I think it depends. Like, I had an Apple AirTag put on my car the other day, and my iPhone alerted me to it. That is a technology that I really wish didn't exist, and also am really glad that my iPhone could alert me, and I'm really glad that existed. So it's a little give and take.
Alrighty, so what exactly is astral projection? Anybody know the exact definition? It's pretty much when you're in a deep meditative state or almost like a hypnosis state, and it's almost as if your soul exits your body and you're like tethered to your body, but it's just kind of like that out of body experience is kind of how I describe it. What about you guys?
I have the actual definition right here for you.
Why didn't you speak up?
I started to, and then you started going, and I just went like right back down. Okay. But basically, what Brittany said is what it is. It's an intentional out of body experience that assumes the existence of a subtle body called an astral body or a body of light through which consciousness can function separately from the physical body and travel through the astral plane. So that is literally the definition. There you go. But what does that mean? Have we all astral projected?
I have, yeah.
Yes.
You, baby.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yes.
My
Dramatic
God, I'm
effect.
asleep already. I'm just kidding.
I'm doing it right now.
Merry Christmas.
So
I think there's two things there, right? So like I think the spiritual body is one, but then the acknowledgement of an astral plane, I think, is the important part, because I like to think of things like on a spiritual side, and then there's always a scientific side of that too. So I think the scientific side of that is we know for a fact that there are different dimensions, right? And have you guys ever heard of Flatlanders?
No.
Have you guys ever? No? Okay. So Flatlanders was an example. It was a book written by somebody I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was a book written about these made up people that lived on a two-dimensional plane. And it was an example or an allegory to try to get you to understand higher dimensions, right? So if you can imagine two-dimensional people, and then all of a sudden we're observing them as a third dimensional person, so like if we were to talk to them, it would sound like voices coming out of nowhere, and we try to explain to like these two-dimensional beings like, oh yeah, you guys only see in like length and width, but we see in depth too, right? I think a lot of people think, I mean, this is my interpretation of it, is like we live in the third dimension, but I believe we actually live in the fourth, because that's accounting for linear time, right? So I think the fifth dimension above us would be nonlinear time. And that is kind of a hard thing to think about. But a good example of this, if you guys have seen that movie with the ghosts,
Insidious.
And Insidious, yes, thank you. Insidious, when he goes into the further, right? So that is like the best interpretation or rendition of what I interpret the astral plane to be is because there's a part of the movie, spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't seen it, but there's a part of the movie where they're in bed, they're kind of getting ready to get settled down, and then all this paranormal activity starts happening, and they hear a bang on the door. Well, then in the second movie, the main character, he gets stuck in the astral plane, and
Oh
he's kind
yeah.
of wandering around, and he finds his house in the astral plane, and he realizes like, oh, this is my house, and he pounds on the door, and that ends up being the pound on the door that they had heard previously.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's like a good way to interpret it. I don't think this higher dimension or the astral plane would be far from that. You know, I think it would be something as along the lines of like nonlinear time. And then you start thinking about that, and you can start kind of trying to piece together, well, maybe that's what deja vu is, and that's kind of where ghosts
spirit
and
realm.
exactly, apparitions and things that are higher dimensional than us would exist.
Right.
So I can think of one other pop culture reference, and we kind of talked about this in another episode, but Hill House, The Haunting of Hill House. Did you watch that?
Yeah,
The bent neck
exactly.
lady, I mean, that's exactly it too.
Yeah.
She's literally being haunted
By herself.
her whole freaking life, dude.
That's what I was trying to say about the people building the pyramids. Like, they're building them right now.
Ew.
Oh,
that makes sense, but that also creeps me out.
But that's also another thing with like residual hauntings. When people talk about like a residual haunting,
like a scream every night at the same time.
Yeah, it's because that's what's happening. Or like,
Any
you know how they say that like wood and certain metal holds in energy. So if you walk into a home that had like a murder of like a violent murder or years of domestic abuse, then you can like feel it and you can see it in apparitions as residual hauntings because that's like what's holding all the energy in. So when you do think of that, is it a residual haunting? Or is it like happening and we're just kind of the veil is thinner, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's both. Yeah, I think that the existence on that plane isn't limited to residual one or the other or the latter. You know, I think they can both exist at the same time. And another big point that Anton LaVey's book, the Satanic Bible, touches on is the acknowledgement of demons, you know, in that plane of existence and stuff like that. So the way that they teach to astral project is to create a kind of a barrier to more like not a barrier, more is like a foyer or like a quarter deck or something that you have to cross into, that you shut the door behind you and then you open the next door into that realm. And then
like
when you come back,
almost.
yeah, exactly. And so I've taught a couple of people that method of astral projecting and kind of like walked them through the steps of creating something that is, you know, like I would often tell them like, okay, picture your favorite shape and now picture your favorite room or picture your favorite materials or your favorite color and walk them through step by step and creating kind of I always say foyer, but a safe place for them to be able to cross in and out of without allowing things to come back into the physical realm.
Right.
Yeah.
We do that. One of our episodes previously, we talked about how to protect yourself during meditation. It's super, super similar where you literally like, for instance, for me, I'm in a forest and I like literally from the earth, because it's like connecting to, with our kind of practice, it's more connecting to Mother Earth. So like vines literally in my mind are coming out of the ground, almost making like a hut of protection with all sorts of elements to it that I add myself. And when I leave my hut, I know like that's my safe place and like nothing can cross that barrier. It's very, very, very similar.
And what I do in my meditation, because what I realized kind of in my mid-20s after I had kids was that my whole childhood, and Brittany has experienced this too on a different level or maybe even the similar level, is we were visited a lot as children by what we call passer-throughs, just like recent deaths, they need to help passing on. They just wake up a child
They
in bed,
feel like a beam of light.
Yes.
Oh, that person's very open. Let me run over there.
Let me say what I need to say, do what I need to do, get out, right? So we kind of experience that a lot. But with that, I also astral projected a lot unknowingly in my childhood. And around high school time, and we started ghost hunting, and it became more apparent that I had no idea not only what I was doing or how I was doing it, but how to keep us safe. Because we were just, like our houses were filled with everything. Anything that wanted to come through, it was just like a big wide open door. So then when I had kids, I did the whole shut off thing. I'm not doing anything. I'm not practicing anything, and nothing's coming in, which didn't help because they just went to my kids.
Yes.
And that was like a whole struggle too. So then in my mid-20s, I was like, oh, I've just put a name to what I do. So when I meditate, if I'm not careful, I will astral project immediately, and I won't have to have a protection. So what I do when I meditate, the very first thing I do is I settle myself down, I connect myself, and I imagine a tether coming out of me, out of like my sacral chakra, shooting down through Mother Earth and like wrapping itself around like a ginormous, for me, it's either selenite or rose quartz, because those are my two like go-tos. But like a giant crystal, and it's like tethering me, because if I'm not consciously saying I'm tethering myself to the ground, I will project away, and that scares me.
Yeah, and I think that's an important warning for any listeners that you guys have that are, trying it for the first time or thinking about trying it. I know there's a lot of people that are, especially in the West now, in our generation, that are really interested in Eastern philosophies and Eastern styles of meditation and stuff like that. But I think the thing that those philosophies and religions, or whatever you want to call them, are missing is the acknowledgement of the darker side of the things. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's like a lot of our generation talks about like the light and the love and all this stuff, but it's like, well, there's always a balance. The universe and whatever will always maintain some kind of balance. So if you don't accept that, you could be a conduit for all kinds of things that are just lurking out there. So I always recommend anybody that wants to try astral projection to set up some kind of foyer to protect themselves from that other plane of existence, even in meditation, because we don't know what that is. You fall into states of flow when you're meditating, and it's like, well, what is that exactly? And all religions have it, and like I said, like prayer is the same thing, and counting a rosary, or being at church, they're all different forms of that. But another thing I'll say about the Eastern religions or philosophies is that they lack the community in their forms of meditation. It's like the Catholics, when we go to mass, we're doing it together, and it's kind of a group activity. But a lot of the Eastern practices, it's very isolationist. It's like you're really separating yourself from attachments and relationships and stuff like that, and that's a big practice in it. But believe what you must, but have some kind of protection, I'd say.
Do you notice at all a fellow Gemini, because I've been told that is one characteristic of Geminis also, is that we are literally an air sign, and it's so, I don't know if you experience it being damn near impossible to ground yourself. You started a lot younger than Brittany and I, so you might have a better handle on it, but it is like, and I think our jokingly, like our ADHD brain is like to attest to that as well, is like we're air signs, and we are like, I physically have to envision myself holding on to the ground. Otherwise, even during a simple meditation, I'm gone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Me too.
Even when I was
spin.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do. You're not fun to meditate with sometimes.
I know, I'm sorry.
So we our meditations, when we're doing a group meditation, and if you're loosey-goosey and you want to experience similar things together and astral project together, you're lessening down your barriers. And when you meditate with Britt, it's like, it's nauseating. You get sucked into this tornado, like her brain is wild.
I will like, and it's the craziest thing because she'll wake up, like we'll get out of our meditation and be like, I'm so nauseous. Like what were you doing? And I'm like, well, I like lift off the ground and I'm spinning, like almost like do you guys remember that scene in Sleepy Hollow where Ichabod's mom is like in the garden and she's like spinning? That's like what I envision, because it's just like I'm like in this free space. And I don't know if that's more of like my meditative state or if I'm on a plane and I'm astral projecting. I don't really know.
Yeah.
It's hard. Yeah, I've felt the same way. It's like hard to tell sometimes where you're at with, and that's why I've never had a good relationship with meditation. But when I was younger and I practiced astral projection, I got really good at it. And then I had a couple of instances where um, I had like run-ins with things that I didn't encounters in that plane that I didn't like, and I completely stopped doing it. But to answer your question about the protection, because yeah, I agree. We're very we're untethered, but we like to be tethered, right? So for me, even when I was full swing, Satanist, I was still Catholic, I guess, at my core, because I would light Saint Christopher, no, Saint Michael candle, the Archangel Saint Michael, and I would keep that burning on my altar that I had while I astral projected, and that always seems like some kind of stability while I was in that. And even when I started to have really bad experiences in the astral plane, it always came back to that, because I had a Saint Michael candle on my altar in my room, the physical world, but also in my foyer that I had set up. It was also a Saint Michael candle. So when I would go in, I would light it, and then in my like foyer, I would light the candle and then enter the astral world. And when I was done, I'd come back, close that door, and blow it out. And that was kind of me, like, that's me shutting off the energy from that attracts anything, and that's it, So
the first time I ever meditated, I remember I had Googled like what to do, and both my kids were born. I was at mom's haunted house, previous episodes, and I just remember reading this thing that was like, envision a candle, and when you light your candle, you're like on and it's like going, and when you're done, you blow it out. So I remember, and this was a terrifying experience for me because I'm probably like 23, 24, maybe a little bit older. Anyway, I go into my meditation, and all of a sudden, like clear as day, like in my third eye, I like open my eyes, I see my candle, and I'm sitting at, it almost was like one of those pentagony, I don't know if it's pentagon, octagon, I don't know, whatever the fuck. Like a
WWE SmackDown.
John
Cena. If only. It was like almost like a poker table. I don't know what shape poker tables are. That, not a round table, poker table style. Anyway, so I'm like sitting at this poker table that's like red velvet in like this darkly lit room with like, it looked like I was like in a fucking gambling hall that had like dim lighting, okay? And I'm sitting there and I look in the middle of the table, and there's a spinning bottle, and every time the bottle stopped, it like my vision like turned to like a dark area of like almost like a dark mass, kind of, I'm going to reference a few things, kind of like in Spirited Away, when before like they come off the ship and they get like the whole outfit, they're like the shadows, kind of like a shadow, and I couldn't make out what they were saying, but it was like, and then the bottle would spin again and stop and land on someone, and they would be but it was giving me like, I was very scared, unsure of where the heck I had like wound up. And I just remember being like, nope, I'm done. Panic, blew
What
up my
I've
candle and came out of it.
what I've noticed a lot is when you're starting this, even like being experienced in meditation and astral projecting and seeing those different things, even your spirit guides and like your angels, they can freak you the fuck out. I've talked about how when I
Yes.
first saw my strongest spirit guide at the time, the one that was really helping me through like my move from California to Texas, that one, I mean, it was a star being and literally showed itself to me as a stereotypical alien. And if that's not the freakiest fucking thing, when you're like at your worst, you're like, you know, really emotional day, you're like, I'm just gonna meditate. My spirit guide, like, please come through. Like, I just need you here with me. And then you get down into meditation, and then it's like, for what happened to me was like the whole room turns red. I'm like sweating. It's hot. I'm like, what is in my meditation? I'm like, what's happening? I'm astral projecting because I'm seeing everything.
Yeah.
And then a fucking 7-foot tall alien comes walking out and like looking over me and like climbs over and is sitting next to me. And I'm like I'm like, what the hell are you? Later on, then I realized during a different meditation, that was my spirit guide. And I was like, I'm so sorry. I know I literally asked you to come over here and help me and be with me. And then as soon as you showed yourself, I freaked out. But that's something that a lot of people aren't prepared for either, is that normal things and even safe things in the astral world or the other side, the under, whatever you want to call it, are not what we're used to seeing.
And they say like
Freaky shit.
angels, for instance, like
Yeah.
if we want to get into like a biblical sense, they say, well, angels appear as something because if we had seen them in their true state, they would be absolutely terrifying.
But
Yeah.
but they would still get freaked out anytime.
Absolutely.
You hear, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But what
It's
are some of
interesting
your
about
guys'
the poker table thing is interesting. What, like, Alex, what's your most, maybe not your first astral projection, but what's like the one that stands out to you the most?
It was probably my last one. It was involuntary, which hadn't happened to me yet, but it was right at the end of my whole practice with that kind of stuff. I had a very every relationship in my life that was important to me up until that point had been really strained because of me starting to practice Satanism. So I had like a rough time with my mom, and we had stopped talking for a couple of months, and she was at the point where she was like, I'd rather be fucking homeless than live in this house with this stuff going on, you know? And so she left and she came back, oddly enough, right around Easter. And so we celebrated Easter together. And I told her, you know what, like, it's not practicing all this stuff and reading into all of it, what really isn't worth losing the relationship that we have together. So I stopped, and I had this whole altar set up. I threw everything away. And at the time, we were living with my grandparents. So uh, she had came into my room this particular night, and we were like watching a movie, and I fell asleep. And what I remember is waking up, and this is, I guess it's not really astral projection, but I feel like I was on that plane. It was more of a sleep paralysis
I
situation
was
where,
gonna say.
yeah, I had woken up, and I kind of was able to like look down at my body. I was laying on my back, and I see my mom sleeping on my right. And then I look over to my left, and every candle and like little statue of like an effigy that I had on my altar was there again, and all the candles were lit, and the whole room was just lit by candle. And I remember like starting to feel a panic and a pressure, and like me sinking into the bed. And I like tried to look around the room and nudge my mom, and then I don't think the candles stayed lit, but all of a sudden, do you remember those old TVs with the backs on them when you turn them on and they'd go ping, and you know the static would come on? I had one of those TVs at the time. That happens. The TV like flashed and did that, like the ping and the static, and as soon as that happened, I became paralyzed completely, and I felt this pressure and this presence on top of me, and I like look with my eyes at the TV, and I saw a pentagram, of Baphomet, and that was it. That was the last one. I
Yeah.
was like, okay, I'm done. And that was also what made me decide, like, I want to shut myself off from dreaming
Yeah.
in that whole realm. And I think that's probably an explanation of why I don't dream so often too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
Yeah. When it comes to when you're the astral world and they fuck with your dreams and it becomes a dream astral projection sleep paralysis. That's
Well, it's
only
like you
happened to me
crack
a
that
couple
door.
times. Yeah, and who knows? It's all the same thing. And I've talked about this on the podcast before, but Alex, I don't know if you've heard about when the night hag, when she first showed herself to me. So I was at work. I worked the graveyard shift. I'm like mooling and booling with all my partners, having like I'm so, you know, enthusiastic and like wide
Mm-hmm.
awake, drinking energy drinks, and then we're just like, oh yeah, we're like laughing, and then I just pass out, like unwarranted. And in that dream, I'm um, astral projecting, but right in this area, right? So in my dream, but no one else is there but me. And I see these three people, and it ends up being the night hag is controlling this whole scenario. And
Mm-hmm.
for what reason, no one is ever going to really know unless I get to have her on as a guest, which would be make our ratings go up. But her whole thing with that, which is what her thing is anyways, is that she wanted to scare me, intimidate me, hurt me, whatever it may be. And then we were fighting in that one, and then when I wake up and snap out of it, um I was like, holy shit, and it had only been like 10 minutes that I was asleep. But this was a whole entire fight scene that had happened with her. And I ended up having that happen again. Same place at work, not out, same place at work, but it was happened at work, same situation. I'm like happy, laughing, whatever. Pass out for 10 minutes, have this insane dream. And then that was the first time that I was able to lucid dream. So, which is interesting that we're all talking about all this stuff at the same time, but it was an astral projection. It was one of my dream. It was a dream world to me. I was lucid dreaming because I was fixing it, and I couldn't move. So I think it was kind of everything together. And like you said earlier, I don't think that the plane is so one dimensional where it's like you can only astral project, you can only be dreaming, you can only talk to
Mm-hmm.
spirits.
Yeah.
It's so morphed. You can do anything.
Or you're just meditating, or you're just
Yeah,
praying, or you're just in
exactly.
church. It's
Exactly.
all of those
Exactly.
things,
Yeah.
Well,
And
even oh,
go
sorry, you
ahead.
go.
No, go ahead.
Like now that we're talking about like the planes and the levels and things, I astral project when I'm doing mundane stuff around the house, which is when I'm driving, when I'm cleaning, when I'm just fucking writing a list. It's the weirdest thing, but same kind of thing. You don't even have to be necessarily like in a deep meditative state.
Yeah. So
You're
there
at a
have
whole other level than a lot of people that are just starting out. That's
No,
very
that
But
makes
advanced.
sense to me too. Like if I'm
I
driving
didn't
to work,
realize it until we were like discussing our bullet points, and I was like, do you think this classifies? And Kayla was like, what the fuck? And I was like, well, I mean, it does. It's like a multiple daily occurrence, like happens multiple times a day.
Yeah, and there's this thing that they talk about. I think it's psychologists have came up with this term called the flow state. Have you ever heard of the flow state?
Mm-mm.
So it's a graph that they made. It's a cool graphic. If your listeners get on Google and just Google like a flow state chart, or like a flow state graph or something like that. It's this graph where it's like on the x-axis they have difficult, like a task, or what the task being difficult, and that's the level that it varies in degrees, and then your skill level. So like a low uh, difficulty and a low skill level falls into like apathy, or like a high difficulty and a low skill level will fall into stress. But when the difficulty level is high and your skill level is high, you fall into what's called a flow state. And that's where people find themselves in meditation, is like the more you do it, the better you get at it, because it is hard. It's a hard thing to
Yeah.
do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of probably the state that you're finding yourself in, the part of your brain that you're accessing when you're doing those even remedial tasks. If you enjoyed them enough and you're good at them, and even though they're tough, you could find yourself falling into a state of flow. And it's the same thing as meditation or astral projecting or praying or any of those things. So that's kind of the scientific, psychological aspect of that. But I think that's
Right.
what you're probably experiencing.
Mm. Which is creepy, because even like in a lot of time, like I remember one specific time I'm like folding laundry, and I'm not necessarily astral projecting, but I'm kind of in that, like, I don't want to say like meditative state, but I could hear like more of like the paranormal side was, I was more aware of it, and actually hearing like my name in like a message, and it's kind of relates to that. What were you gonna say?
Like when I'm driving to work, and then all of a sudden I'm like, what the fuck happened like in the last 10 minutes?
That is the freakiest feeling.
Yeah.
It really, when you're like, you're zoned out, but then, and you can't even remember. Like,
Right.
what was that? A red light? Was that a green light? Have we been going with the flow of traffic? But what I have been, because I've been trying to make myself more aware of those situations when they happen, because they freak me out so bad, that I notice that if something does interrupt that flow, which is like the perfect like
Word.
term for it, like the light turns red, then that's when you snap out of it and you go, oh, okay, I can't be just chill anymore. But it's freaky how many people are doing that on a daily while we're all driving.
Right.
And you know
On
what's weird
autopilot.
about that is that there's studies that suggest you're a safer driver falling into that state of like apathy, because it's a low skill level, because you've been doing it for so long.
On the
That, I
same
mean,
route
and
that
it
you
could get
take every day.
Yeah, exactly. And if you were to try to become conscious during your daily drive, you'll notice it gets a lot fucking harder, like in
It
a
gets
weird
so
way.
stressful. You're so
Yeah, yeah.
hyper aware of everything.
That's what backseat drivers are, you know, is that they break you out of that state of apathy where you can't fall into autopilot, and then it's not easy anymore.
you
It
get
becomes really
stressed.
And that's when
difficult.
you get so pissed off and
Yeah.
you're like, stop backseat driving me.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's pretty. We just like, in How I Met Your Mother, the glass shattering episode.
Yeah.
Where they shatter. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, Josh, have you ever astral projected on purpose or not?
Well, I was gonna say no, but then hearing y'all talk about it reminded me of when I got my MRI. It was my
What
first
happened?
MRI. So it was like 35, 40 minutes long. And before I got in there, the guy was like, there's going to be a lot of loud noises that sound really scary, but you just need to like lay there and not move. And I'm like, all right, fine. So I like lay down and they like pushed me in there. And
He enjoyed it, which I was like, sir.
I didn't
sorry.
enjoy it, but
Sign me up again.
no. But and then I start to hear like all the, like bangs and all that shit. And I was like, oh, it just feels like I'm on the boat. Like it's those same noises, right? Like catapult shooting, planes landing. Like
Yeah.
when we were on nights and then we'd get in our bed during the day and we'd have like those loud bangs,
When I said I could sleep through a plane crash, I fucking meant it, and I know. But yeah, no, that's true.
So I'm like laying there and the loud bangs and everything, and I'd say like from minute 0 to minute 7, I was like, this fucking sucks and it's gonna take forever, And I'm just laying there and I'm just like thinking and brain's going off on tangents and whatnot, and then I was starting to get like flashbacks of like being on the boat, and I'm like laying in my rack and just like thinking about laying in my rack, and then like I was fucking laying in my rack, but I was still just like thinking about like whatever I was thinking about, and it was like Steve was right next to me and you're fucking under me, and You know, I got my
Oh, word.
I slept in the bunk below him, just for clarification.
You sure?
Most of the
Giggity,
time.
But I'm like laying in my rack, you know, and then I just hear like on the wall like just those fucking bangs, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah. Cuz it sounded just like it.
Yeah.
And then that same thing happened to where like all of a sudden I'm getting like pulled out of the MRI and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what just happened? Like I can account for the last like 20-25 minutes, you know? And then I'm like on the way home and I'm like, dude, that was freaking weird.
Yeah.
Uh
So did they let you listen to music
no.
while you see? I took my grandpa for an MRI, and they're like, "What kind of music do you want to listen to?" So that's interesting that they just left you to your own devices, but it's cool because that's what the brain does when you leave it in an idle state. You know, it'll find ways to travel and do things like that. So,
Yeah.
and the other thing to take into consideration is that you're under two big magnets. Like you're in
Yes.
between
Yeah.
two massive magnets, bro. That's why you can't take your phone in there. It'll drain your battery. Or if you have something metal in your pocket, it'll fucking stick to the wall of the MRI machine because it's creating this huge magnetic wave to read your brain functions or
It's like
whatever.
sitting on a vortex, practically, of
Yeah, so
like
I mean,
magnetic field.
it probably helped you fall into that state of
Oh, for
astral
sure.
projection or flow or whatever you want to call it, but that is what it was for sure.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and like not moving either because they like say like you can't move at all.
Yeah,
And like
no.
normally
Yeah.
I would be like,
Tap in.
yeah, or something, but
Yeah.
I was just laying there.
You should try meditating more because you are a very fidgety person, and you do. I can't count how many times I've like been like Josh, and you're just in a whole nother dimension.
I
Dude,
know,
like,
all the time.
Let's just watch this back and just.
Exactly.
But I'm fucking gone. But
Steve!
no,
We're
not
here.
actually. But yeah, the
Yeah.
See, I
lucid
did-
dreaming.
You should. Well, before we jump into lucid dreaming, I want to talk real quick about the first time I purposely astral projected. But Josh, you would be wild because like when we've all meditated together, and yours was so like you think that you would be very ADHD, but you are so focused in your meditation.
Oh
Your
my gosh,
projecting
yeah.
would be wild.
How do you guys know that?
We've meditated together and we've literally connected in our meditations.
He wasn't even there. Autopilot. Well, he was gone. He was fucking. It
I was
doesn't
like,
even
here's
matter.
a cardboard
You cut
cut
out
out
of
of Josh.
You're so focused, Josh. Like I can't even the car. Hello. Yeah. No, but the first time I ever purposely astral projected, I was meditating with a friend of mine, and we were like, let's try to. And we were in different places. This was like over the phone, and we're like, let's try to meet up in the astral world, which kids is scary if you don't know what the fuck you're doing.
Dangerous.
You know, you don't know where you're at. And it took all of 30 minutes for us to actually connect. And this is someone that had experience astral projecting on the regular, and but I didn't, and it was really wild for me because I went on a wild ride, let me tell you. But one thing that freaked me out the most was I was going to places that I had never been before, or places I had been before, like you on the boat. Not I obviously didn't go to the boat, but I went to places that I had been before. And but one place that really freaked me out, kind of like your poker table thing, was a train station. Now I have never been on a train before, like not even like a subway or something. So it's weird that that would be a place that I would end up. But there were all of these people here, and it was just like the Spirited Away one that you were explaining. Some of them were more solid though, like me, and we were just walking past each other, and the murmuring was
Yes.
wild. And there was all this like fog or smoke from like the train, I'm assuming. And I was stuck there for a minute, just like pacing and like walk and like running into people and like, oh my gosh. And then I finally got like yanked into the location where we were trying to project to. And that was like me trying to like explain that to the person. And then after we got out of the meditation, and I was like, dude, like this is where I was. It was freaking wild. And I had Googled it for a while, and a lot of people, that's like a stereotypical place where people go in the astral world. It's like that's literally described by a lot of people as a train station before you take off to where you're supposed to be going, and it's weird. I don't know if you guys have ever seen it, but it freaked me the fuck out.
Alex, what is that one practice that it's not astral projection, astral what?
Templing, yeah. So that's a form
Templing.
of astro projecting that the Satanist practice to. So he explained it in the book as a safe place to practice Satanism, because it can like exhibit fucking A, like it ruined a lot of the relationships I had in my life. So that was a tool that he had kind of came up with for when you start getting into doing rituals or whatever. You could do them in the astral world instead of on the physical plane. So,
Oh.
but it also has to do with setting up that foyer.
Yeah. Okay.
Or a temple, as he would say. Yeah.
When you guys astral project out of your body, not necessarily to a certain like beam location, do you ever see your face? I never see my face.
I don't think I do. No, I just see
like the back of my head or like the side of my head, like I'm in the corner or like above myself.
I don't. When I used to do it on purpose, I never saw myself at all. But I did it a couple of times when I was really, really young. One time when I was just sleeping. I remember as a kid, and I always thought it was a dream. But then, learning more, I was like, oh, I was definitely astral projecting, because I was kind of like out of body experience, floating and observing the entire room and seeing myself sleeping. But then another time that's interesting is I had a relative, my auntie's husband was passing away, so the whole family was in the waiting room hospital, and I kept this is a story that's recounted to me. My family says that I kept looking up and saying, "Where's he going? Where's he going?" The only thing I really remember is hospital wheels, like the gurneys, rolling down the hallways. That's like, I wasn't in my head. That's what I kept seeing, and that's the only memory I have of that event. So
wow, that's really cool.
That is cool. Oof.
Yeah,
it's wild to think of like what we did as children and what happened to us as children, like in the paranormal sense, especially having children.
I know. I was just thinking that.
Yeah, because when I really freaked out, when my oldest, he wasn't even speaking yet, but he started speaking Spanish. And although Spanish is our first language, like no one in our family or house or anything knows how to speak Spanish. And like the only thing he would watch, girl, relax. And the only thing that he would watch at the time on TV was like Frozen on a loop, or like The Lion Guard. So he wasn't, you know, exposed to it at all in any sense of it. And then I went to a psychic fair and I had a reading done, and this lady was like, "You have shut yourself off so much," and explained that that the passer throughs were they're still coming to me, but then they're like, "Oh, this bitch isn't listening to me," so they go straight to your kid. And I was like,
wide open.
yeah, who have no
They
idea.
haven't gotten scared.
yeah,
Same
they're
thing
little
happened
lightning
to
rods
ours.
for
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
And he had woken up multiple times, like on the off chance that he wasn't sleeping in our room. He would wake up, freaked out. He started speaking Spanish, which was wild. And she said that was something that, Spanish speaker spirits were coming to him. And that's where he was picking it up, which was super cool. And she said that her son went through the same thing when he was a baby, and he started speaking German. And that's when she was like, oh, I gotta focus more and have them come to me instead of him. Because
a similar thing, because the meditation poker table thing happened. I want to say it was like the summer before we moved into the Astoria house. And I had like really closed myself off. I was like, I don't want to experience any of that like paranormal stuff again. Like, this is so scary. And there was one particular time where Josh was out to sea, and
Alex.
was Alex out to sea that time? Listen, let me tell you. Okay, Josh is out to sea. I am taking melatonin every night because I'm like can't sleep, and I feel like paranormal stuff is happening, but I'm not like into it. And I'm closing myself off, not dreaming, like hadn't dreamed for a while. And the kids were waking up in the middle of the night screaming, saying that they had seen feet dangling in their closet, which that freaked me out because I was like, Evelyn is literally 2.5 years old. Not 2.5, 4. And I was like, she wouldn't know what that meant. But it kind of, you know, in my head, I was like, oh shit. And then the week that all was happening was when we got kicked out of the house because that ghost was so pissed off. And we had to go.
Dude, that was
with
freaky.
Sarah.
No, he was on the boat, wasn't he? Because you guys were all together.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, get ready. Get ready for whatever comes.
I remember that.
Yeah. But you can attest, Sarah can attest to how scary the house was.
It was.
I was on FaceTime, and even via FaceTime, shit was. You guys stressed me the fuck out that day.
I know.
Her and Sarah are freaky.
It was, the whole thing was so close. Like, I had closed myself off so much that this spirit was like, what the fuck? Like, you could feel it all. And the kids were being affected, and I was getting terrified. And anytime Sarah and I are together, it's like it amplifies everything. And
well, that was when the kids were going, oh.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the door, the back door unlocked and flew open, and we're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
My school stuff gets thrown across the table. Like, good night and goodbye.
Yeah.
I'm out.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Oh. A similar kind of closing off thing, tangent.
It is. And more importantly, if you're going to be doing stuff like this, make sure you understand how to protect yourself from stuff like this.
Protection is key.
And another side note, I know that Alex, you have a different, deeper side to more negative spirits that you run in with. Whereas on Brittany and my side of it, and Josh, because you've ghost hunted with us too, is we don't see a lot of we maybe have ran into 2 demons at most. The other are just really strong, energetic spirits. But when they're just, when it's just like for sure, they can be straight up assholes, but they're not demons. It's like a whole other, you can tell when it's a demon versus when it's just a pissy, bitchy spirit. But they're just trying to get your attention. So people are like, oh my gosh, it broke my mirror. It slammed my door. It like yanked on my foot in bed. And it's like, they're trying to do everything that they possibly can to just get your attention to help them out. Or just to like do whatever they want, but I don't know about the demon side of it.
It's different when it's a D word and you can fucking feel that.
And evil. You know what? The interesting thing about that is that I didn't really have a whole lot of, I guess, paranormal activities happen to me until I started to break away from that practicing, So I'd say a demon on that plane knows what they're doing, and I think a lot of people say like, oh well, how come we never encounter anything like that? I mean, one of it is being open to stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
The other part, on the negative aspect of that, is also my dad used to say something to me that as I've always, he said it once when I was a kid, and it clicked and it made sense. It's like, how come everybody doesn't, how come in the movies and in stories and, it's always the really religious people or the really, good people that get fucked with as far as like demons and possessions and stuff like that. It's like, well, the devil doesn't care about the people who don't believe because he's already got you. It's the
Yeah.
people that are really close to their faith or close that are really light in spirituality that these deities try to fuck with because they're trying to pull you away from that. And I think that I'm kind of an example of that is when I was full-fledged into the practice, not never really happened, you know, as far as a negative run-in with any of those things. But it was when I started to pull away that things became more hectic and more, you know, traumatic, and things in my life started falling apart more and more. Like the guy on the boat who started reading Anton LaVey's book.
Yeah.
He literally told us, what did he say? To you, I think he probably told you.
He said ever since he got that book, his life just fallen apart.
Yeah.
Which
That's
I'm
the
like,
case, right?
But I can add to that too, because like the last time I was on here and I was telling all my like ghost story stuff, it was always like when I was it was like at the point of my life where I was kind of like at a fork in the road, you know. And I can say like it's been, you know, 10, 11, 12 years since anything like that has happened. And I think the only difference is now, and I mean, Alex, I don't know, but I'm like way more just like sure of myself.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds kind of weird to say, but like,
No, but it's
Cocky.
true. It's true.
I know the meaning of life, okay? No, I
Capricorn.
fully agree with that because the times in my life that it's been so in my constant everyday life of like what like I'm hearing voices directly in my ear when I'm by myself driving in the car, you know, and I'm like picking up on stuff like shit's happening all the time. I'm having these vivid dreams and stuff. It's when I really needed to end a toxic relationship,
Oh, yeah.
and when I needed that extra push to make this move from California to Texas.
Or
And
even just like a change, or like get up, or like get out of this
Mhm.
depressive state.
It's like you're not picking up on the other signs that we're throwing you. And in that sense, for me, because I do like to, I'm not naive to the fact that there's a lot of evil in this world,
Right.
and in other planes of the world. But I do try my hardest to live on a like positive light and love type of thing. And that's my intention when I go into things. Although it's not, obviously, I've had constant run ins with the night hag. So I know it doesn't always stay that way.
Yeah, and that's the allegory of most modern day, you know, ghost movies or hauntings. It's like, well, at the end of the possession or the end of the haunting, the family's always closer, right? It's like, well, that's the Taoist point of view of the yin yang. You know, it's like there's good in the bad and there's bad in the good, and the acknowledgement of both is what makes you balanced. So
Exactly.
those things that happen, I mean, I've became so much more knowledgeable and picked up so much philosophies that have rounded me out and kind of built my character as I was growing up because I was so young, that I look back at now and I'm like, man, those were bad times in my life, but fuck, I wouldn't change them because they are what made me who I am. So
Yeah.
I think you don't necessarily have to focus or, you know, always be in the state of like, well, there's dark things out there too, and you know, but the acknowledgement and the recognition that in those dark parts there is good to come out of them, or there is a lesson to be learned or something.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's even like when I'm reading tarot, and I've noticed this a lot with like the TikTok tarot people. Oh, that's quite a tongue twister. TikTok tarot people, is that they not all of them, but a lot of them they'll pull the tower card for someone, which is like like your life is about to completely fall apart, like this is the most negative card, it's horrible, blah blah. And I've talked about this on the podcast already before, so I'm sorry listeners if you're like, this bitch, shut up about the tower card. But when, you know, and before I started reading tarot, when I would go and get my tarot read and they would pull that, and it's like it was so well known to be like, oh, this shit's gonna hit the fan. But the way I do it when I pull that for people I read, I'm like, yes, like this is about to boost you into where you need to be. Like it's gonna feel like your life's gonna fall apart, you're gonna lose your job, or like, you know, you're going to have your relationship end, you're going to have some kind of really difficult thing happen, but it's because like this beautiful, like the great beyond is about to happen.
Yeah.
And
and
yeah.
that's true with everything. Working out, you know, like even eating healthy. When you get on certain diets, you get sick first, and it's because you're flushing out all those toxins. You know,
Right.
us going to boot camp. That's the whole goal and objective of like the drill instructors is to like break you down, literally, like you said. The tower card. It's like it's to break you down and rebuild you into something better.
Yes.
Yeah. I say to myself, and it's kind of, maybe it's a little, you guys tell me what you think, but I am not surprised nowadays in my like 30s when certain situations or certain people turn out to be shit, because I say like, you know, what really sucks is that this world, like our realm, has a lot more bad than good, and finding the good in things is like what overpowers the bad, you know, because I wholeheartedly believe that the world that we're in right now is, you know, is that way.
It's the plane that we choose. I was about to make it factual. It's not, in my opinion. It's the realm or the plane of existence that we choose to come back to not
learn.
only experience every single emotion, including like sorrow and grief and like, you know, complete euphoria, all in the same little blip, but it's also to learn and to
Yeah.
go through your thing so that you can reach that higher, like ascended master level, you know. Maybe not everyone believes that, obviously, but I do believe that we come back. We choose to come back here. There's this, I know I sent it to you guys, but I'm going to explain it. I saw it again today. It's a TikTok, of course. When do I ever not talk about TikTok? But it's this lady holding her newborn baby. It had to have been like maybe a few weeks old. And she's holding it up like this, and it like moves forward. It like sits itself up, which is uncommon for babies of that age. And then it goes like, like a human, like an adult scream, and then it like falls back down and it's like, wah, like a baby. And then it cuts to this chick and she's like, where'd that fucking new technology baby come from? Like sitting up on your own, like screaming a real scream. And it's so funny to me because the first thing I thought of was like one of the first comments I saw, and it was like, that baby just realized that it's coming back to Earth and has to live a whole other life here again. And I was like, God! Like sits up and is like, what the fuck am I doing back here? And then it's like, oh, I gotta be a baby. Anyways, that's when I saw that, I was like, that's gonna be me if I don't learn all my lessons here this lifetime.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's a great time to be on Earth.
It is. There's so much beauty and there's so much to be had, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, even though I do feel like there is a lot of negativity here, there's good. You just gotta like unearth it, or like under this rock there's good stuff, or, you know, metaphorically speaking.
Yeah.
And in the world, I mean, we go through cycles anyway, and it's part of that balance, you know. It's like that cycle. Everybody's heard of it. It's I keep hearing it all over social media. Strong times create, or hard times create strong people. Strong people create good times. Good times create weak people. Weak people create hard times, and hard times create. You know, it's that cycle of all
You
the
keep
things.
hearing that on social media?
Yeah,
That's something our
well,
dad says all the
That's a
time.
thing. It's like a common.
No, I
Dad-
know it's a comment. I just haven't seen it, but I have a weird algorithm, so
It's like
Yeah.
the pride cycle. or something.
clearly, yeah.
Pride cycle.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But it's so true.
Oh yeah.
it is.
And you wish you could tell yourself that you're going to stay in a level of like humility. Like, I'm just going to be humble and like take everything. But you're always going to get back into that cycle. That's like,
Yeah, it's I mean,
think
we've
that's
said
human
it
nature.
like several times, the yin and yang. It's that balance.
Yeah.
You can have like the road
Crazy.
rage. Road rage, flip somebody off, say like, go fucking pop a tire, but then be like, you know what? I don't know where they're going. I wish them well and to have a positive day.
That's been like the hardest thing for me when I first started driving. Side note, major tangent. I had the worst road rage because of that, flow diagram. I was unskilled and it was high stress, But then it's like I went into and so I would like have major road rage and be like, fuck that guy for doing that. I still have road rage now and then. But like if someone like flies past me now and like cuts off and takes off and I'm like, their wife's in labor in the back seat. Even if it's not true, I'm telling myself that like they just got a call, like their kid's on the way to the hospital, like
exactly.
Because I
there's
don't
an
want to
emergency. Get there safely.
Because otherwise I'll be like, you piece of shit.
Yes.
And so it's like, no, I'm gonna be like, you know what? For sure, like
it's
they just robbed a bank and they've got to get. I know, right? Yeah, but let's talk about lucid dreaming. Lucid dreaming. That's straight up Inception type shit right there.
Yeah.
I think.
Who is I'm not the expert on this at all.
Me neither. Me neither.
Have you guys ever Did you say I think I am?
You have to
I've got a lot of
I'll take it over.
experience.
He's got a lot of experience. He's got a lifetime of knowledge.
Lifetime of knowledge. Have Brittany and Alex, have you guys ever lucid dreamed? Lucid dreamt? Dreamt?
I don't think I ever have.
Oh, well, you don't dream that often either. Right. Makes sense.
I have it's kind of like a cheating lucid dreaming, I think, where if I'm having like a very scary dream or a vivid dream that's like made me emotional, so emotional that I wake up, I'll fall back asleep and fall back into the same dream and be like, no, this actually is not going to happen. It's going to be like this. But then sometimes crazy? What?
Mine, I was like, what's crazy is that's the only time I can't lucid dream is when I wake up overly emotional and then fall back asleep and you're back into that dream. I can't change it.
Oh no, like if I'm woken up by like I remember like I was like 12 when I had this dream. I've told you about it before. We were in my dream on a road trip, stop at a truck stop. We go to use the bathroom and get snacks and stuff, and Kayla's missing. And I'm like, where the fuck is my sister? Well, I'm like 12. I'm not saying fuck, but I'm like, where is she? Where is she? And I go to like a freezer because I just had like this feeling to look in there, and Kayla is dead inside the freezer. And I'm like, and I wake up and I'm like bawling my eyes out, like crying in my sleep. And I'm like, oh my God. And then I fell back asleep and I was trying so hard to get it to like where I'd open the freezer and she wouldn't be in there,
Mm-hmm.
But it's like instances like that, or I'll wake up and be like, I didn't have a weapon. Like, oh my God. And then I'll fall back asleep and I'll open a cupboard and there'll be a weapon there. Or I'll be able to run away, but it's very rare.
I've only just recently been able to actually like lucid dream, like legitimately I'm in my dream and like something's happening and I'm like, no, it's not. And like I've only just recently, and it's not every dream. I wish it was, because I've been having some funky dreams lately. But it'll be like a random dream. And I was saying this a little bit earlier when we were off the record. And I'm going to say it again. But where I am having a dream inside of a dream, and I'm aware of both instances. And then like a couple days later, I will have another dream about those two dreams. And it's like all connected. And we kind of, like Alex, you had said, like, oh, it's like dream deja vu.
Yeah.
And it's like, it really is. And those are the moments where I'm able to really lucid dream and like pick and choose, like cherry pick what I want to happen. But I can't do it all the time. Yeah, it's freaky.
Did we talk about this on the air or off the air? I can't remember. Because I'll have the deja vu of places or like locations, but it'll be like a different scenario and I can't change anything. Like it's almost like we've talked about like this the spirit jail we've gone to before. It looks the same to both of us and even look the same to Lexi, and we would experience the same things. It's like returning to a dream place.
Yeah.
But I've never been able to change or alter anything in my dreams.
When I go to like the dream spirit house, like the ghost house that I think of, that manipulates between the Sherman house and a hotel and every other possibility. I have not mastered lucid dreaming there at all. It's so unpredictable and it's so crazy because I'll walk down like a hotel hallway, and so there's doors everywhere, and like stuff will be happening behind the doors.
Yeah.
And it's like almost like a haunted house.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I'm not opening that door, like forget that. And that's Lexi did, I think, talk about that she saw the night hag at that like hotel house.
Yeah.
Thing. Yeah. And down the hallway. And that's like, no, thank
well, and
you.
we talked about it on her episode too, about like the planes of existence. She can be
anywhere.
Yeah, anywhere and everywhere at the same time. One thing I do, like people who lucid dream like regularly, they do this almost like this test where they go up to someone and they ask them the date.
In
and
their
the person
dream
freaks the fuck out on them and is like, why would you ask me that? How dare you ask me that? And then it's almost
somebody in their dream.
Yeah.
Yes. You go.
They go up to
one of
the NPCs in your dream, and you're and you start
them
asking them. Yeah, like that's the best way I can describe it. And you ask them like why are you here, or who are you? Like I don't know you,
date?
Right? Or what's the date? And then they start freaking out, like you're not allowed to ask that.
Yeah.
Like what do you think you're doing?
See, and I take a very like psychological, scientific standpoint on all of this, even though I do believe that it's a like there are different planes of existence. I'm kind of a fucking contradiction when I talk about this stuff, because I think I try to look at it on the evolutionary standpoint of like, well, why do we dream in the first place, right? And I think there's this guy, Andrew Huberman. He is a neuroscientist out of...
I know. How do you? He's got like cue cards on the back of the fucking camera. Like his mom is holding them up, like Herbert Longbottom. Like what the fuck? I can't even remember my name half the time. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Alex. Me and Josh are like astral projecting right now.
I'm like, yes, Alex.
I'm just like, how do you know all this?
Like,
You can just just do like a random mashup, and then he'll just do like a fucking
I've been listening to a lot of him actually, because he's coming up and he has his own podcast. You should definitely listen to this one first and then go listen to it. But he has a podcast, and it's interesting because he talks about like the consciousness. His whole thing is about neuroscience. So he kind of, I'm not going to do it justice. You should definitely go look at what he says about it. But he talks about how they think now that the purpose, the evolutionary purpose of dreaming is to process things, so like it could be like trauma or even things that haven't happened yet, because it's like, when people dream about getting fucking attacked by lions, it's like, well, why would I dream that? And then there's the classic perspective of it is like it's your subconscious dealing with things of like guilt or trauma or stuff like that, and that's more like Freud. And that's Freud has great explanations about or dream interpretations and stuff like that. And a lot of people discount him because he was kind of a weirdo, but I love Freud's interpretation of the subconscious mind. Like all of his stuff.
It was wild. I can't say I loved everything he believed in the subconscious mind. Some of it is really icky, but I do agree with you. Like he was spot on with certain things.
Mm-hmm. And I like some people attribute to like your teeth falling out dreams or not being able to like hold your fists up or things like that.
Like slow fighting.
Yes. And
or slow running.
I see it as like a psychological process, like your subconscious is processing an anxiety you have. Oh, there's keep going, sorry.
But those are like all idiosyncratic behaviors that we all know, even though like we've never, like everybody dreams about those things. Those are very common things that we all have.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, where they attribute that to like an evolutionary response to try to deal with fear, or very like basic instinctual emotions, so
yeah.
That's
showing up to school butt naked, like
exactly.
I've never had that dream.
Me neither.
I have.
Yeah, I mean, I've had the dream where I'm like naked in public, but no, I was gonna go really gross with it, but I'm not going to. But I've never had it like when I was in high school. I never had that dream. But you make a really good point, and I'm gonna like say me and Josh are on. We must be evolving a lot faster than you guys, because that must mean that people that just spouting shit off. But if dreaming and all of us having these similar dreams are all an evolutionary thing, then people that can lucid dream are overstepping that evolutionary.
That was
you know what I mean?
That was my kind of instinctual thought that I had, is like, well, I would think if that's the case, I mean, and we don't know obviously, but if dreaming is an evolutionary byproduct to deal with things or to prepare yourself for events or stuff like that, I would think intuitively that being lucid dreaming would be counterproductive, because it's like, well, you're not supposed to be able to control your dreams, because it's kind of, you're taking the conscious out of the process of dealing with those things. So that's why I think I've never really cared about, like, they have those practices where you're like, I'm gonna lucid dream and I'm gonna remember it. I'm gonna lucid dream and I'm gonna remember it. Like, head. But I've just always been like, let the subconscious mind do whatever the fuck it pleases, because it could probably work out.
You know what's funny?
Exactly, me too.
Is that now in turn, instead of what I was going for of me and Josh being like super amazing Marvel characters that are now on this new evolutionary plan, are we just that closed off in our emotional maturity in real life that
fucking boom.
in our dream world we're like, we are not dealing with that.
Yeah, it might be. I mean, there might be something there, and I would recommend some Freud.
Talk about your lucid dreaming experiences.
Yes, go ahead, Josh. Sorry.
When I was younger, I can't do it now.
Right the fuck into it.
Yeah.
I can't.
You know what? Sure. All of a sudden, as soon as I said that you weren't evolutionary.
No, listen to why he can't.
Okay,
anymore.
all right, let's go.
No, that's so I can still wake myself up from a dream like that. Like, no matter what. If I'm having a nightmare, I can be like, oh, this is a nightmare, and I pull myself out of it and I wake up.
Oh, unfair.
When I was younger, it was over the span of like a couple years, and I ended up like mastering it, like hands down. Where
just fucking wait.
Oh, wait, hang on a second, Josh. Here's your slice of humble pie. Go ahead.
So it started off with like dreaming, and then being able to like realize like this is a dream. But for like a while, like as soon as I realized I was in a dream, I would wake up. Right? So I started getting really good at like, this is a dream, and then I'm going to stay in it. And I would be able to, and those like that first like bit of it, it felt like I was diving and I was holding on to like a oxygen tube, right? That would only last me like 10 seconds. So I could like do whatever the fuck I wanted for about 10 seconds, and then I'm like pulled up, right? And I wake up. And then that time started getting like longer and longer, right?
Explain.
Explain
the dream, what you would do.
I had one mission. There was one thing I wanted to do, and that was run around and squeeze boobs.
I love it.
How old are you?
Like 11, 12, 13.
14, 15,
14,
16,
15, 16,
25.
17, 18.
31.
Probably gonna be 32.
But yeah, so like when I was like at the peak, it was being able to say like, oh cool, I'm in a dream. And then I'm just like on a mission. Like yeah. And that's like all I cared about doing. But and I couldn't ever like fly, but I could do like a super jump, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Like I'm always getting like pulled back down.
Were you breastfed as a child?
No, I wasn't. I wasn't.
Freud.
So yeah. And
But what
then
about your conscious? That's what you said.
oh
That's
well
why you
yeah,
think it
like
stopped.
I can't do it now. Like I can't be in a dream.
I can't squeeze goddamn boobs now, my friends.
Married.
Well, that's kind of what I'm getting at. Like if I'm having a dream, like say I'm having a dream that involves like some ex being like, "Hey, how are you?" You know? Yeah, here we go. Hey, it all happens. Don't sit here and try to
She's
use
in the
that.
corner of the screen tapping her foot with their arm crossed, just like motherfucker.
Never.
But like now, if I'm having some kind of dream like that, I can't, or any dream at all. Period. Like I don't have like the brain capacity now to like be like, oh, I'm in a dream. Let me like run around and do whatever I want. But maybe on some level, it's still there because obviously, like when I'm in a dream, I'm aware of like, Brittany's my wife. I have 2 kids. You know, like, so if like something like that is happening, where like some chick is like, "Hey, Josh," you know,
want to grab my
like,
boobs?
Sure.
It's like the night hag like begging you to lucid dream and like come through, and you're like, no.
Well, it's so funny to like think back on because like when I was a kid and I would like find some chick and just start squeezing her boobs, I feel like they were always like what are you doing? Like just like standing there but being like, what are you doing? And I'd be like, shut up, bitch. You're not real. You know? You're not even real. But
it's one of those NPCs.
But yeah, like now I'm like, no, like this isn't like I have, you know, this life and all that.
I remember we were talking about, I was like, have you ever had a dream like where you're like in a sex dream about like a celebrity or an ex? And he was like, no, never. And I was like, okay.
But what I meant by that was like I've never had like
a lucid dream about that.
Not even a lucid dream, but like just a dream where like I'm actually like having sex with somebody. You know what I mean?
Right.
On that note, I have like anti-lucid dreams.
Like, you cannot change anything at all?
No, not even that. It'll spill into my wake life. So
that's called a wet dream.
The maturity rating on this podcast is
Hong Kong.
No,
sorry.
I haven't been diagnosed, but I want to go get a sleep study done because I was just talking about this, a condition called sexsomnia, where I do start in the middle of the night and I'll wake up just like, whoa, you know, it's never like
Alex.
Nice. But so that's like the opposite of lucid dreaming. Like
you're like sleepwalking and having sex.
Yeah.
That's wild. That's got to be complicated,
Scary.
especially when you guys were on the ship.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Josh lived with me. I was always like, point your ass to the wall, buddy.
Yeah.
Tape that mouth
I remember
closed.
that. Please
Hey, have
don't
you guys
plan a
seen
section.
people mouth taping now? Like,
Yes.
like as a health benefit?
Yes.
What?
Even
Literally
thinking
sleeping
about
with
it
your
with
tape.
tape over their mouth to try to like cure
That's
whatever.
some TikTok shit for sure.
I know.
It
I'm
is
like,
like
no thanks.
freaky.
I'm still
Yeah.
at Tide Pods, like.
Yeah, you are. Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's some freaky stuff. People are doing some crazy stuff these days.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
had a flashback, Alex, of when I would go to like your rack to like see if you were up and just to like talk to you, and you would have your phone like taped up to the ceiling watching a show, and I would be like, "Hey, dude, what's up?" And then you're like passed out.
And you would just stand there and watch the show.
Just watching your show.
I'm
You're just.
mouth open, and you just fall.
And then I would be like, I gotta leave.
He wasn't watching your show. He was watching you sleep.
That's what he never told. It wasn't my drool, it was his drool.
So interesting.
God.
You Navy guys.
I know.
Yeah.
In the Navy.
Nobody likes the Navy guys.
Except
Bitch, you're not even real.
I was gonna say nobody liked the Navy guys except other Navy guys.
That's true.
Well, this has been quite a chaotic episode of all sorts of twists and turns. So thank you guys for listening to this chaotic episode. And thank you to our guests for joining us and keeping this conversation live. I feel like we could just keep talking for hours about this stuff.
For real.
It's almost like we're all friends in real life.
No.
I don't know.
No, thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun. Anytime.
Yes, we will have you guys back very, very soon. And if you guys are watching us over on our YouTube, hi, how are ya? Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more fun episodes and spooky, ooky topics.
We are also on Apple and Spotify podcasts or anything that you listen to your podcast on. And we are also on TikTok and Instagram at the Twisted Twins Podcast. So definitely follow us, check us out, like, subscribe, send us a message. If you guys enjoyed this ADHD-filled chaotic episode, definitely let us know. If you want to hear more from our guests, definitely let us know so that we can make sure we bring them back with more riveting topics.
Yes, and if you guys have any topics you want us to cover, definitely shoot us a message on any of our social media accounts. You can email us at thetwistedtwinspodcast@gmail.com. Alrighty, and other than that, we hope you have a wonderful weekend. You take care and stay twisted. Bye.